Hey, I'm Douglas from Draftbit. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the linear progress component. This component is perfect for visually displaying a numeric progress value, which can really be useful for tracking completion stages or loading progress in your application. I'm going to walk you through what this component is, why you would want to use it, and then I'm going to be jumping in and adding it to the screen. So first thing, we need to go to our component picker, click add, then search for the linear component. Once we have the linear component on our screen, I'll zoom in to 125% for better visibility. As you can see, we have it on our screen, but right now it doesn't have a value. So let's go ahead and add that. We're going to go to the right side and then we're going to go to the data tab. First thing that we're going to see is the value. So I'm going to set the value to 70, which represents a static progress level of 70%. So as you can see, it's now been added up to 70%. So value controls how much of the bar is filled and can also be adjusted dynamically. Then up next, we have minimum value. This sets the lowest value the progress can display, typically set to 0. We have maximum value. This sets the highest value, often set to 100% to represent full progress. And these two make up a range. So in this instance, our range can be from 0 to 100. So it means our value cannot go above 100 or it cannot go below 0. So the above settings, they give you control over the range of progress displayed, but the best way to manage the value is by setting a variable. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to go to variable. I'm going to create a new variable called progress. Set that to a number and have the default be 0. Right, then we save. Then what I'm going to do, instead of value here, instead of entering it, I'm going to assign the variable that I just created. Then it's going to go back to 0. Then next, I'm going to add a button. And what I want to do, when I click that button, I want to increment this progress. So you can see how in a real application, when you submit a form, for example, or when you're uploading an image, how the progress is going to be incremented and show up on the screen. We have a button on the screen now. And what I want for the button to say is save. Okay, now that we have our button, we're going to go to interactions, and on press of this button, what we want to do is what's called a set variable. Right? And this allows us to be able to change a certain variable to a new value of our choice. So right now we want to change progress to progress plus. So we use an action called an add, and then we're going to add 80, right? So we're going to take it from 0 to 80. So now on our device preview, make sure that it's on web preview, click save, and you can see it goes from 0 to 80. So this is how we can do it. For example, if you're trying to upload an image, we click save. So in this action, we're going to have some API requests. It uploads the image, and the API request is giving us back, the progress, how much of the image has been uploaded. And here in the variable, we're just setting that value to the progress, and then we're able to see the progress. So now let's switch over to the config tab and discuss a few important properties. So make sure you go back to linear progress, go here to config, and the first thing that we see is the component name. So this is how the component appears in the screen's component tree. You can customize it for better organization. So right now it says linear progress. We can change this and it's going to change it in the component tree. Right. Then we have indeterminate. So indeterminate, when enabled, this will show an infinite looping animation instead of a fixed value. It's useful when the current progress cannot be determined. Right. So right now we're getting the value from this progress variable that when we click save, it gets populated to 80. Right. If we come back here and we click indeterminate, right, it's going to have a looping animation and it's going to ignore this value, as you can see. So it ignores this value and it just starts having an infinite loop. Why we may need to use this for certain instances where we don't know the progress. So sometimes we don't know what the progress value is. We might just want to show the user this. Then up next, we have animation duration and animated. So let's first look at animated. So this option determines whether transition to a new value should be animated or not. Enabling this enhances the user experience, making things feel smoother. So right now when we click save, you can see there's an animation. From each point to the next, it's moving smoothly, right? We turn this off, thereby turning off the animation. Now when we click, it just appears at 80%. Let's turn it back on. And notice how it now glides smoothly. So that's the animation. Then animation duration. So from each point to the next, how fast do you want this movement to happen? Right now it's 500 milliseconds. Let's say 5000 milliseconds. And click save again. And notice how slow it becomes, right? You can now see it more. Let's have everything back to normal. Then up next, let's dive into the styles for the linear progress component. So there are several properties we can adjust to customize its appearance. So if we come here, we click on styles, we'll notice the first style that we see is the color, right? But then before we do this, instead of just, clicking save all the time, let's save our progress, have an initial value of 50. Right? That will save us more time, and now we can see it. Or better yet, let's have it be 70. Yeah, so initially it's now 70, right? We no longer have to click this button all the time. So let's proceed. Then up next, we have dash gap. So this defines a gap between the progress bar when using a dash style. So right now you can see our progress bar is continuous. When this is enabled, we're able to have dashes in between this progress bar. Right? But then to enable this, we come here where it says dash width, and then we set a default dash width that applies a default gap to the progress bar. So for that to make sense, let's just come here to dash width and just say 20, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And you see, by default, we now have these dashes that have been applied. And then dash offset. So it specifies where the progress bar should start and end when we have dashes. So right now you can see it's starting at the very, very start of our progress bar. But if we go to dash offset and we just say 20, you're going to notice that the start is going to shift, right? So let's apply that. Notice how it now starts from this point. It doesn't start from the start of the track. So the track is this dark color that's below the progress. So this is the progress, and then this is the track. Notice how it now starts, a bit further left from the beginning. So that's the offset. Let's have that back to normal. Up next, we have line cap. This determines the shape of the progress bar from start to end. So notice how the progress bar is a bit curved here. So that's the rounded property. We can have the square property where it's no longer curved, but it's squared, right? Again, let's have that back to normal. Up next, we have show track. So the track, as I explained, is this part here. That's not the progress bar. So here on the left of the progress bar, then below this grayish color, that's the track. So the track is what the progress bar is sitting on top of, right? So that's the track. We can show that or we can hide it. So here we can hide it. And now we no longer see a track, but let's just have everything back to default. Then here we have track color. So we can pick any color that we want for the track. Usually you want a color, that doesn't distract you from the progress color. Imagine if we had black here or red, the user wouldn't be able to know which is the progress bar, which is the track. So that's why we need this, darker color. Up next, we have track dash gap. So similar to dash gap, but specifically for the track. So as you can notice, the dash gap, dash offset, dash width, these are all for the progress bar. And then the track dash gap, track dash offset, and track dash width, these are now for the track. So it's the same thing that we were talking about here, but here the difference is it's now for the track. So again, the same principle applies. If we have a track dash width of, let's say 20, it's going to automatically apply a track dash gap. And you notice here, we now have these dashes on the track. And then the offset is the same thing, specifies where this track will start and end. So let's reset that. And then we have the track line cap. So just the same as the line cap here, but it's now for the track. Notice how the track ends in a curved. So right here we can make it a square, and then here it becomes a square. So yeah, that's that. And then we have track thickness. So this is specifying how thick do you want the track to be. And then here we can just have maybe 40, and you can see how thick the track is going to become. Right, you see the track is now thick. Let's have it back to rounded. Yeah, then we also have thickness for the progress bar. How thick do you want the progress bar to be? Let's say 30. And then we also get a thick progress bar. Yeah, and I think that's it for the linear progress bar. So by customizing the styles, you can create a unique look for your linear progress component that fits your app design. Thank you for watching. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video.